So now we have connected both the cables. So let's see if the screen turns on. And indeed the screen turns on. So now we need to place the display properly here. And how this is done, and we get the blind spot detection, and if I put my turn signal on, I get the red indicator, and I can then switch lanes when that one goes away. Hi there, and welcome to TechBlower, and welcome to my Tesla Model Y. You might have noticed in most of the Teslas that they only have one central screen that has all the information and controls, even the speedometer. Some people might find it difficult to have everything to the side. So there are companies that are creating displays to have behind your steering wheel. And Hansshow was kind enough to send me one for review. It's the F9 Pro dashboard display. And it is in this cardboard box. So let's unbox it and see what we got. I of course have my trusty unboxing knife to open the box. So let's dig in. We'll have to remove some tape, and we should be careful to point the knife in the direction away from us, so we're not hurting ourselves. And it's tightly packaged, like this. And on this side, let's turn it around so we have better access. Now I think we have cut enough tape. So let's see what's inside this cardboard box. And inside this box we have another box. So let's turn it around and see what we have. Ta-da! It's indeed a screen, and it's the F9 Intelligent LCD meter, according to the box. On the front of the box we see some functionality that the screen offers. For example, the speedometer, the charging state of the car. It offers CarPlay and shows the light status, tire pressure, and whether your belt is buckled, and of course time and temperature and more. I will show you all the functionality after I've installed the screen. So otherwise the box doesn't have anything on the sides. On the bottom we have some information about Hansshow and a QR code to their website. So if you're interested, you can scan that. But let's see what's inside the box. That's what we're here for. So just lift up the lid. And ta-da! We don't see the screen, but we see some foam protection. So let's take that off. And the first thing that we see is an installation manual or instruction. I guess it's an installation instruction. It seems to be a manual of the functionality of the screen. So that's really nice. Seems to be quite extensive. Blind spot monitoring, hands-off reminder, rainbow road, and here in the front, control methods. We can use the right scroll wheel on the steering wheel. But I will show you this after the installation. Then we have some QR codes for installation manuals and installation videos. And then a welcome note from Hansshow, which is really nice. And if we dig up what we have more here, we have a bag full of cables. And so we have a spudger tool to help us out taking off the panels, and a lot of cables. So here we have a bundle of cables. And this is the cable that connects to the screen. And then we have these two cables that are, I guess, are connecting to one of the ends here. No, actually, these are the ones connecting to the actual screen. And this one is connecting to this one on these cables here. So you might be wondering, why do we have so many cables? Well, we have the data cable and we have an additional OBD port. So if we are connecting the screen and then we want to connect something else, we have that possibility. And the same for the power. And here we have just different connectors for different cars. I would guess the smaller one is for my Tesla Model Y, and this one, they're actually marked. So AMD power plug, and we see here, this one says Y. So this is for my Model Y. So I will show you how to connect those, and then we actually get an adapter from USB-C to USB-A. That's really nice. That means that the display must have a USB-C port. So that's all the cables. At the bottom here we have some electrical tape, and that is very useful for keeping all the cables in place when we are hiding them under the panels. So now it's time to get up the screen, which is at the bottom here. It's in some plastic wrap. Where's the opening? It's on the side. So here is the screen. It's quite big, really nice. And it has some plastic cover on it because it's being protected from being scratched while in the box and during the installation. And here we see the different cables. And you might notice we have one yellow one. This one we won't use. This one is used if we have an additional camera that we want to place on the bumper. But since my Tesla Model Y Juniper has camera already on the bumper, we don't need this one. So we only need the black and red one. So this is the screen. And the last thing at the bottom here, if you've seen any of my installation videos, this might be familiar. This is the plastic tool that we use to feed the cable under the panels here. So this will come in handy when we are threading and feeding the cables to the right places. So that's all in the box. So let's go to the installation. So the first thing we need to do to install the display is to connect the cables. And to access the connections, we need to remove some panels, and before we remove the panels we have to loosen up the weather seal here, and that's really easy. It's not glued, just pull it off like this. As you can see, it's really easy. And the next step is to remove this small panel here, and now the small orange spudder tool comes in handy because we can use that to pry open this small panel here. So just put the tool under the panel, just try to get under there and just pry it open, and then you can use your fingers. So there are clips on this side and this side. When you have got these ones out, you can just pull it towards you and these clips go out. So now that we removed this small panel here, we also have to remove this big one here. But in order to do that, there's a small pin here that we need to loosen up. So then we can use this end of the spudger tool and just go under the pin here. Try to get it out. Sometimes it's better to go from the top or just from the bottom like I did, and you see it popped out, and then you simply drag it out. And that's loose. So now, since we removed the small pin here, the rest of the panel is just fastened with clips. So I would recommend starting at the bottom here and just pull on the panel until it gets loose, like this. And there are clips inside here, so you drag it towards you when all the clips at the bottom are loose. And this whole panel is loose. So we put that to the side. And now you see all the cable mess down here. I have a little bit more cables here than it usually has because I have 2 light strips installed. So all those cables are here. And the OBD port, the data port that we need to connect to, is behind here. But luckily we have an additional OBD port on these cables that we can simply connect to. So if you haven't connected any accessories, the OBD port is a little bit further down here, but it looks the same way as this one, but it's gray. And then we have the power port, and that is here, down here. But I have a light strip connected to there, but we have an additional port to connect to right here. So we can just daisy chain the power and the data through these cables. So here's the cable for the display. So for the OBD connection, we simply use this connector here and plug it in until it clicks, like this. And then, since I have a different accessory here, we'll just have to find the power port that works. If you are connecting directly to the car, you would use the smaller one here, and I would guess that I'm using the bigger one here. Let's see if it turns the right way, and that clicks. So now we should have power and data to the display. And before we thread the cable and remove more panels, let's see if these connections are correct and connect the display just to try it out. So we have this cable that connects here. We'll remove it again before we thread it all. So that connects like this. And then we have matching colors here, black and gray. Yeah, we have some pins and we have some arrows on the cables. So I will show you in more detail when we actually connect this. So there is a groove here and an arrow, so I'm guessing those connect together. And where's the arrow on this one and the groove? So now we have connected both the cables. So let's see if the screen turns on. And indeed the screen turns on. And we can actually see that I get a picture of a Tesla. Seems like a white Juniper. I get the stats for my charging, so the connections down here are working. So we can disconnect the display again and connect it later when we have routed all the cables to the right places. And let's remove this cable for now, because we need to route this cable all the way to the steering wheel. So now we know the connections are working, and now we have to remove this panel to be able to thread this cable all the way to the steering wheel. So let's do that. So I have to warn you, if you're removing this panel for the first time in your car, it might be quite difficult, but since I've removed it a few times now, it's getting easier and easier. And we can actually use the spudger tool to help us out to remove this panel. Just putting it under here carefully so we don't scratch anything. And you can then put your fingers under there and lift up on the opposite side as well. And you see it loosens up. And then we can use the spudger tool to help us out, or just our fingers, to lift the panel up and remove it all the way. I will speed through this footage. So now the panel is loose all the way, like you see here. So we can simply put that to the side, and then of course we put it back when the installation is finished. So now the fun part begins. We have this plastic tool that I said that we are using to route the cables the right way. And on top here we have a few holes. And the first thing is that we need to get the cable up here. And then we need to route it under some panels here to get it all the way to the steering wheel. So let's start by getting the feeding wire up here, and then we connect the cable to it and drag it through. My experience is that the best way to get the feeding wire down here is going from the top and down, and try to get the feeding wire out on this side, and we will see where it ends up. Let's see. It might take a while to find the proper way out here, so I will speed through the footage and show you where my wire came out. You might need to help the plastic feeding tool out here, like I'm doing here. And we have the plastic tool out here. So now we need to take the wire and tape it with the provided electrical tape to the feeding cable and drag it through. And this might be tricky because this is quite a thick cable, but we'll just take it slowly and feed it through. And as I said, just taping the cable onto the feeding wire, and we'll try to make it as small as possible so it's not too wide or too high, because it's a small space that we need to drag the cable through. So let's see if this works. Just go a few rounds like this. So I think this is enough. So now we just have to feed the cable through, and we should both pull on the feeding wire and guide the cable through, so we're not losing the cable inside here or damaging something. So just take your time and guide the cable through. It's a big cable, so it might be quite difficult to get it through. And we made it through. So let's just drag the slack here. We don't know how much cable we need to get all the way to the steering wheel, so we'll see how much slack we need to leave here, because we don't want the slack to be by the steering wheel. So now we just have to keep feeding the cable through the panels here all the way to the steering wheel. It will be a little bit difficult to show you all the places where I'm feeding the cable, but I'll show you where the cable ends up being. So just feed the feeding cable further, and we'll hopefully get the whole cable all the way. So I hope you can see it. We are getting the feeding wire up here. So just take it step by step, and hopefully we can get the cable the same route. Just take it slowly, as I said. You don't want to lose the cable on the way. Feeding it slowly through here. And we're here. And this one goes down here. So now we're on the other side, so you can see what I'm doing. And we need to continue feeding the cable all the way here. And I'm attempting to get it up here or up here, because we need to get it all the way here. So let's continue here. Let's see where this feeding cable can go. Yep, it can go up here, but I'm not sure that the cable can go up here. So let's try to get the feeding cable to pop up here. I need to get it further. So it's popping up in the clip here. I don't want that. I want it. Okay, let's use the spudder tool to help us out a little bit here, to guide the wire to the place we want it. Oh, there we got the cable, or there we got the feeding wire up. So this spudder tool comes in handy while feeding the cable as well. So now I'm hoping that I can get the cable the same way, because as we know, it's quite larger than the feeding tool. Yep, we are getting it through here. So now I think we have fed the cable as far as we have to, because the display will be connected here and we have the cables here. So this is far enough. So we can take the electrical tape off like this. So now, since we have fed the cable all the way here, it's time to connect the display. But we have to connect this small cable first to the cable that we fed through. So we have a small hook on this cable here, and we have a kind of a clip here. So those should match. So we just have to match those together, trying to show you here. This clip and the hook should match together, and those should click in place. So this is not going anywhere. And then we connect the display as we did before. We have the arrows here on this side and a small groove on this side, and we should line those up and connect. And then the black part is the same way. We have the arrow here on the big connection and a groove on the small connection, and it goes like this. And now hopefully we will get the display turning on as we did before, and yes, indeed, we got that. So now we need to place the display properly here. And how this is done, it's quite easy. It just goes to the panel here, and we just have to make sure it's quite centered, and then it simply goes down here. Let's see, it should match with the vent over here. So we have a vent over here, and it feeds it under the display, which is really nice. So we'll try to keep that in the center and the cables out of the way. And since I have a light strip here, I was kind of worried that it won't work, but it seems like it will just go on top of the light strip, so that's fine. So try to keep it centered. Let's see. Seems like quite centered to me here. You see? Yep. So I'll just place it down here. And as you can see, it's kind of hovering a little bit over the light strip, but that's fine. So like this, I can see the screen properly here. So now we need to somehow hide these cables, and I think we just need to route this cable back a little bit. There is some space here that we can use for the cable. So I think we should put some electrical tape on these connections so we don't lose the connection. So just some electrical tape onto the connections to secure them. One on the red cable. Same on the black cable. And also on this one, even though we have a clip here to hold it, I would put some electrical tape on that one as well, just to make it secure. So just a small piece and a few rounds around it. The screen is still on, so everything is working. So just like this. And let's just pull the cable a little bit further back down under here. And I'm hoping I won't disconnect this here. Let's put it down here a little bit. And now I'm just carefully dragging this back, and I'm gonna just do it like this. So this needs to be here. I'm hoping that the panel can go on top of these, otherwise I have to try to go under here and hide them, but we will see whether we can just keep the cables on top here. And this one also needs to go here. And just for now, let's put some electrical tape to keep these cables in place, so they're not in the way when we put the panel back on. So just a small piece here. It's not in the way of the clips. So let's see when we put the panel back on if I need to move these cables away somehow. But the screen is here and it's on and seems to be working. So let's start putting back all the panels. So you now see that we have some slack here. So let's drag the cable back a little bit, because we have plenty of space down here to keep the cables. So just drag it back, and hopefully the panel can get on top of this one and won't be in the way. So now we have to clean up this mess here. So let's put the panel back on top here to see if the cables are in the way, and then we can close off this area here. So now we just have to align all the clips on here with the clips on the panel, and then simply push it down. So start by aligning the first one here and aligning the end here. Let's see if it pops down. Yep, it seems to be popping down properly, and the cables don't seem to be in the way. So that's really nice. So there seems to be some space under the panel, so there is space for some cables there. So that's really nice. So now let's tidy up the cables here so we can put all the panels back on. And you see that there are a lot of cables here, but we should simply be able to put those behind here, and they shouldn't be in the way of anything. So just take your time. You have to be careful about all the clips that are here. Since we have a few accessories, it's more than usual amount of cables. So I think this will be fine, because then the panels will just push on it. So let's put the big panel on first. So that's this one. We're of course doing it in reverse order. So we push it in first and then press it down. There are some places here that this panel goes into. It's difficult to show you, but it simply goes in there kind of automatically. There is plenty of space behind here, as you can see. We might just need to push these cables back a little bit before we put on the weather seal, and then we just have to align these clips. This one needs to go a little bit further, like this, and now we can press this down. So this is in place, and we can't forget about the small pin that we need to put here. So to put it back in, the pin inside needs to be out, and then just put it in the hole and press the pin in. So now this is stuck, not going anywhere. Before we put this small panel back on, make sure that the display cable is not in the way of these clips. And it's not in my case, so I can safely put the small panel back on. And these clips go in first. Let's see, like this. And then just gently put this back. And then it's just placing the weather seal back. And that's just putting it in place and pressing it down with your fingers. And you see down here that we have one cable peeking out here. So let's put it further under and put the weather seal down like this. And now that's back. So now we put all the panels back and the weather seal. So let's see the functionality of the display. So now I've installed the screen, so let's see how it works. So let's take the plastic cover off. Gorgeous display. I can see that this is indeed the Model Y, but let's see what we have here. We have the speed, we have the speed limit. It seems to be the US version of it, but in the settings we can change that. We have the current battery status and the estimated kilometers I can drive on that battery status. I have the clock. It's not correct. We have to change that. We have the temperature in Fahrenheit. I will change that to Celsius. Then I have what driving mode my car is in. It's currently parked, but then we have drive, reverse and neutral. And then we have some small widget here, which is currently showing the pressure of the tires, but I guess I need to drive a little bit, so that pops up. But we also have some dots down here, so I guess we have some more options here. Let's swipe. We have some driving information. Total distance 2,296 on the car, and then I guess this is just per drive. We'll see. Here we have consumption graph. That's really nice. We have settings. We have CarPlay. And we have Android Auto. So, since we saw settings here, let's go into the settings and try to configure it so it matches better with my country and region and the color of my car. So go to settings. Here the first step is the VLAN option, where I can connect the Bluetooth connection to my phone and also connect the screen to Wi-Fi, because I can get updates to this screen. So here's the Wi-Fi, Bluetooth connection, and something called HiCar. So if we go down to General, we can change how the temperature is displayed. I want to have it Celsius because we use Celsius here in Iceland. I want the 24-hour time, but if I want, I can have the 12-hour time. Here is the time zone. So I'm going to change that because this is not my time zone. I'm at UTC 0 or GMT. And then the speed limit sign, it's currently set to America. I will put it to General. I think that's closer to what it is here in Europe. And we can use the speakers of the display or use the Bluetooth connection from the car. I will keep the speakers on the display. And then we can set what metric we want for the tire pressure. Here it's set to bar. I'm used to having the PSI. And then we have different languages for the screen, and I will keep it in English. Now if we go down to model, here we can set what type of car we have, and I guess this display is reading it from the car OBD port that I'm driving, the Model Y Juniper. At least that's selected now, but we can change it to normal Model Y. That's how that looks like. And we can change it to Model 3. Looks like this. And of course we can change it to Model 3 Highland. And you can see that it is indeed the Highland. We see the difference in the lights in the front. But of course, since I'm driving the Model Y Juniper, we'll keep that. And we can change the color of the car displayed. Can check how the red one looks like. Looks really nice. We didn't see the light bar actually when we had the white car. So black one looks great. The blue one also looks great, but my color is gray for my Model Y. So let's see how that looks. Looks really nice. So go back to settings and to model. And the last mode here is the drive mode. And that's simply saying on which side the steering wheel is. And here in Iceland, the steering wheel is on the left side. So that's correctly configured. Then we have some display settings. We have different interfaces for the display. So currently we have this one that I've already shown you. But we can have UI interface 2. And that looks like this. Then we have the consumption graph here, speedometer, and the speed limit. And now you see, since I changed how the speed limit should look like, it's more like how I see it on my Tesla. And here we have a similar menu as before, with some options like the tire pressure that has now changed to PSI, and the distance for the current drive, settings, CarPlay, and Android Auto. If we go back to the settings, to the display, and select UI 3, we have this style. It looks really similar to the first one. Let's see if we find the settings again here and go to UI 1. Yeah, it's really similar. Not sure if I see any difference actually. UI 3 seems to be just the same. Maybe I'm not seeing the difference, but it's really similar. So let's keep UI 1. Then we can decide whether we want the light mode, the dark mode, which is really nice actually. Yeah, this is looking good. Or we can simply set it to auto. Then I would guess that it follows the setting on the Tesla screen, switching to dark mode in the night. So let's keep it in auto. And then for the mobile internet, whether we want it full screen or half screen, I would guess this is for the CarPlay. When that's on, whether we want it displayed full screen or half screen. I would guess if we use CarPlay, we want it full screen. And then we can have Rainbow Road. We can switch that off, of course, but let's keep it on. Let's see how that looks like. And lastly, we have the software tab where we can check for updates. And there are actually a few ways we can do that. If we have a USB stick with the update, we can do that via the USB port on the display. And there's no upgrade file because we haven't connected anything. But we can also get upgrades via over the air, via Wi-Fi. So those are the settings. One thing I forgot to mention, there is a front camera setting here which I can put on, but since I didn't install a front camera because the Model Y already has one, I would keep it off. But this would be applicable for example the Model 3, older Model Ys, where you install a front-facing camera. So I keep it on off. So if we drag from the top here, we have some additional quick settings. So we can turn off the display. We have a battery preconditioning button, which is really good. AP, I'm not sure. Don't see anything happening. Time, what happens there? Yeah. Then we can simply display the time on the display, and I guess if we touch the display, yeah, we get the main screen again. SVC, which is the steering wheel controls, so we can control the display using the steering wheel buttons. And then we have the Bluetooth on and off, and then we actually have buttons to open the doors. We have the front passenger door, we have the left rear passenger door, and the right rear passenger door, and it will simply unlock the door and it pushes a little bit outwards. Then we have controls for the seats. I would guess this is the driver's seat. Let's try it out. No, it's the passenger seat that goes back and forth. So that's really nice to have controls for that. Then here we can control the volume of the speaker included in the display, and then we can change the brightness of the display. But we can also, I guess, have it auto. So it's automatically changing the brightness. I guess it will sync with the Tesla display. So let's keep it on auto. And then we also have access to the settings from here. So that's really neat. Now I think I've covered all the settings of the display. So let's take it for a drive and see the functionality in action. I hope that the camera will not shake too much while showing you the display, but let's see how it goes. So we see the animation of the car when I put it to drive, and of course it goes to drive here. So it shows the steering wheel is in the way when I'm turning, but we see the animation of the car. While I'm driving, just have to keep the steering wheel straight so you see on the display what's happening. So let's get a little bit of air in here. I see the windows are fogging up a little bit. Just keep it on the low setting. So if we just test out, for example, the blinkers, you see that we get the blinkers on the screen, the left one, and of course the right one as well. You see the light status. So let's drive forward and see what we see on the screen. It's a really nice view of the car, and you see the speed going up, and it's in kilometers per hour as I want it. And you see the 30 sign there. Let's see if something happens if I go over the speed limit. Nope, nothing seems to be displaying when I go over the speed limit. And you also see in the top right that I now have the correct clock and I have the temperature in Celsius. We see the line here, it's the acceleration and deceleration line, as we have on the Tesla screen. And we also get, as you can see here, the autopilot steering wheel on the display. That's really nice. So it's syncing really well with the Tesla screen, the speed limits and the actual speed. It's just perfectly synced. As it should, because it's connecting to the OBD port of the car, getting all the data it needs. And the screen is really sharp. That's really nice. So let's try the autopilot. We don't have full self-driving here in Iceland, so I can't show you that if it's any different. So let's turn to this road here. And now we just have to put on autopilot. And since I had the rainbow road setting, we are getting the rainbow road on the display. That's really nice. And the steering wheel that was previously gray is now blue, as we get on the actual Tesla screen. So this is really nice. We have some indication that we are in autopilot on the display, which is really cool. So let's turn autopilot off, and the rainbow road goes off, and we just have the gray steering wheel. And this display should have blind spot detection as well. So let's see if we can get that to display. You see the deceleration line there. And when I accelerate, it goes the other way. It is a white acceleration line and green deceleration line. And we even see the brake lights of the car on the display. It's really nice. I don't know if you saw it, but when I took my foot off the accelerator, you saw the brake lights. You can see it now. Really nice. Great to have these details in the display. And you see that the speed limit is changing, and it's just syncing with the Tesla screen. Let's see if we can get the blind spot detection here. Nope. Yep, we did get it. So you saw it quickly was a yellow line on the right side of the screen because we had a car on our right side, and now we hopefully get more cars on the right side so I can show you the blind spot detection better. So let's drive besides this car on my right here, and we get the blind spot detection. And if I put my turn signal on, I get the red indicator, and I can then switch lanes when that one goes away. So if we go back, there's no car, so no blind spot detection activated. So that's really nice that we get the blind spot detection in the screen. So it's right in front of us. No car, so no blind spot detection. Let's try the autopilot again. We get the awesome rainbow road. That's really nice. Let's turn it off again. So now that I put it in a park, you can see that it changes to park here as well. If I put it into reverse, of course, I get the reverse marked as active, and I put it into park again. So, as I said, you can set up CarPlay just by clicking here, and you get the instructions, and you simply connect CarPlay as you usually do on your iPhone, and then you can get a full screen view of CarPlay with all the CarPlay functionality. And since this video is not about CarPlay, it's about the display, I will just leave it like this, and you can see how the CarPlay works on the display when you connect it yourself. The same goes with Android Auto. You simply go into the Android Auto setting and follow the instructions. And since I don't even have an Android phone, I cannot show you how that works. But I'm quite sure if you ever connected Android Auto to anything, you know what to do. It should be really easy. I hope I covered all the functionality of the display, and I'm really liking it. It's really crisp and clear, and the placement is nice. I see it well through the steering wheel, and all the functionality, even including blind spot detection and having fun stuff like the Rainbow Road included. That's really nice. And the installation of the display wasn't that difficult. Probably the most difficult part was to thread the cable the right way and just getting the feeding wire into the right holes there. But when that was finished, the rest was quite easy. So if you want your own display like this, please go to hansshow.com or use the direct link in the video description. But before you do the actual checkout, please remember to use my discount code TechBlower. Yes, it's simply the name of the channel. And you will get some generous discount on the display. And of course, Hansshow has a lot of other products for your Tesla, so take a look. I really hope you liked this unboxing, installation and test of this F9 Pro display from Hansshow. And if you liked this video, please check out my other content on my channel, and please consider subscribing, because it really helps my channel grow. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. See you in my next video.